Okay, today we are going to learn about questioning as we read, and we are going to use my daughter's social studies book. It's an 8th grade social studies book, and we're doing time and Earth's rotation. It's our chapter right here. And I see at the top here that we have rotation and time zones as two key terms. So as I am talking or thinking about things I'm going to write questions about, those are two things for sure I'm going to do for questions. So as I start, I'm also noticing that we have rotation of Earth and time zones and the prime meridian as headings. Those are things that I will for sure want to note as questions in those areas. So as I look at this, I would write down a question for rotation of the Earth. That's a heading, so I know it's important. It's important information. A question we could come up with for that to look for an answer as we read is how long does it take the Earth to make one rotation? And since the term rotation is there, I might want to make a note about what is rotation. So as I read through, and it says, as Earth rotates around the sun, it is rotating or spinning in space. Earth rotates around its axes. Each complete turn or rotation takes 24 hours. At that time, it is night on the side of Earth facing away from the sun. As Earth rotates, that side of Earth turns to face the sun, and the sun appears to rise. The sun's light shines on the side of the Earth. It is daytime. Then as that side of Earth turns away from the sun appears to set. No sunlight reaches that side of Earth. It is nighttime. Okay, so then I had asked, how long does it take the Earth to make one rotation? It said right in here that it takes 24 hours. And it says, what is rotation? It told us in here that it is a complete turn. So I have my questions and I have the answers to my questions. The next section was time zones. Well, I also noticed that that's a term. So I'm thinking that I want to make sure that I write a question about the time zones. So I might want to ask, like, what is the difference between the neighboring time zones? What's the hour difference from each zone? And so I'm going to read about that. It says, because Earth rotates towards the east, the day starts earlier in the east than it does further west. Over short distances, the time difference is small. For example, the sun rises about 4 minutes earlier in Beaumont, Texas than it does in Houston, 70 miles to the west. But if every town that has its own local time, people would have a hard time keeping track. So governments have agreed to divide the world into standard time zones, or areas sharing the same time. Time and neighboring zones are 1 hour apart. Well, I can see where, yeah, if you had that many different time zones, it would be very confusing. So I'm finding in here, to answer my questions about time zones, is that there's an hour difference when you change time zones. Now I see there's a prime meridian. Well, okay, that's not something that we know about yet. So I might ask, what is a prime meridian and where is it on this Earth? So let's see if I can answer those two questions. The prime meridian in Greenwich, England, is at the center of one of these zones. The time in that zone is sometimes known as Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Time, which they have abbreviated here as UT. Other time zones are sometimes described in terms of how many hours they are behind or ahead of UT. So that told me that the prime meridian is the center of all the time zones, and it is located in Greenwich, England. And that's all there is to this section, but there's questions for each section and the terms. And so that's what we talk about when we talk about making questions as we read, because we want to. And also, if there were other information here that I did not know that I thought was really interesting, I would make a question and write an answer for that as well. Thanks for stopping.